Thank you, councillors and members of senior staff and members of the press. Welcome to a beautiful wet Thursday, the 21st of May, for the meeting of Temora Shire Council. I declare the meeting open, and this meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information, and all present today are reminded that while speaking you are agreeing your view and comments being recorded and published. You're also reminded that if or when speaking, that we continue to be respectful to others and use appropriate language. Temora Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting. So, thank you very much. I now would like to invite when he finishes chewing, I'd now like to invite Councillor Winky, who is going to deliver our opening prayer. It was to be Pastor Darren Kupke, the rector from the Lutheran Church. However, obviously, with the current restraints with COVID-19, that is not permissible at this stage, but we know it's an ever-moving feast. So, Councillor Winky, would you lead us in our opening prayer, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Heavenly Father, we give you our thanks and praise for the beautiful rain that's falling at the moment. And, Lord, it's timely and it's well fitting into the program for the farmers, and we thank you for that. We thank you too for the way that the authorities and the government are handling the pandemic that's present in our community and in our state, in our country, in the world. And Lord, we give you praise and thanks for the leadership and wisdom that you've given them to handle it the way that they have. We thank you too for the way that they're starting to open the borders up, and we pray that everyone will continue to stay safe and that people will still continue to obey the distance rules and hand washing rules, and to help us keep safe as well. Pray for our community. Pray, Lord, that you'll bless this community that we live in. Pray that you'll help us as councillors and staff of this local council to continue to work our way through difficulties, but also exciting times we have in front of us. We pray once again for your wisdom to be with us. Grant us that way forward that we need to deal with issues that we may have. Pray for safety for all of us too as we go through this meeting tonight, and also as we travel home back to our families. We ask this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Councillor Winky. Councillors, any apologies? I think we have a full house, so that's excellent. Also acknowledge the first meeting at the front table is our Director of Administration and Finance, Mrs. Elizabeth Smith. Welcome to your first formal meeting as our newly appointed Director. We're mighty proud to see you here. Thank you. Any declaration of interest, councillors, please? Councillor McLaren.
An item in the closed section.
Yes, thank you. Further declaration at this point? Not. Let's proceed. We have no presentation. The General Manager.
Could I just ask councillors that you speak fairly loud, because we've got microphones in the centre, but it'll struggle to pick up if you talk at a very low voice. So if you could just
check your voice as best you can.
Check the voice.
Yes. Tend to sing on the same. Thank you. No further interest. Confirmation of minutes for the April meeting, Temora Shire Council, please, that they be received as true and correct record. Thank you, Councillor Slade. Deputy Mayor, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. Declare that motion carried. Thank you very much. Any matters arising, Mr. General Manager?
There aren't, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, let's now proceed to the mayoral minute. You should all have a copy of that in your late reports document. all got those? Okay, you right, Councillor Stone? Yep. Everyone, yep, okay. Number one, Temora Shire councillors, our staff and community will reflect on the recent passing of our esteemed former Temora Shire President, the late Ian James Murphy OAM. Mr Murphy was not only a former Temora Shire President for the 1990-91 term, but also a long-serving past President of the former Narrabri Shire. Mr Murphy served for some 15 years as the Deputy Chairman of the former Northern Riverina County Council, the NRCC, with an overall career in local government spanning some 35 years. It was indeed an honour for myself, former Mayor Mr Peter Spears, OAM, and Mr Gary Lavelle, our General Manager, to have been invited to attend the funeral service of Mr Murphy, which was held in Canberra. Mr Spears and I were also invited to address the intimate gathering, which we were proud to do. Council sent flowers to Mrs Nola Murphy and her family, as well as lowering our national and council flags to half-mast, all to acknowledge the sad passing of a true gentleman of local government and a highly respected leader of Temora Shire. Our prayers, strength and love of us all remain with Mrs Murphy and her family. Before I ask us all to rise in our places to observe a minute's silence, I'd like to ask if there's any councillor or senior staff member that wish to say anything in honour of the late Mr Murphy. Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. When I joined the former Narrabri Shire Council, Councillor Murphy was the Shire President at the time, and he was a great mentor to there was 3 new councillors on at that meeting, first meeting. There was Councillor Spears, Councillor Kite, and myself. So it was anyway. Really appreciated the mentorship that Councillor Murphy gave to us, all new councillors, and over the ensuing years that on the Temora Shire Council as well. So he was a great chap to work with. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Judd, and I also thank you for sending some memorabilia that I could send on to the family for the lovely service that took place in Belconnen recently. So thank you, Councillor Judd. Thank you. I'd ask all present to please rise in your places and we'll observe a minute's silence. Thank you, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly commend all councillors, staff and the community on the manner in which they have handled the current coronavirus situation. These are certainly challenging times. However, everyone in the main has adapted well and continued to show kindness, care and respect toward others, which is the Temora Shire way. I congratulate our Prime Minister, the Federal Opposition Leader, our Premier, the New South Wales Opposition Leader, their fellow MPs, for working together to ensure we come through this current battle in a safe and sound manner. Our citizens' safety is number one, and that guides Council's decisions every single day. We have been blessed to not have any cases of COVID-19 in Temora. Let's all continue to do as our respective federal, state and local governments are telling us, and we will come through this stronger than ever. I place on record Council's warm congratulations to our newly appointed Director of Administration and Finance, Mrs Elizabeth Smith. Mrs Smith has been our respected and long-serving financial accountant and has recently accepted the challenge to step up to this vitally important position. I know every councillor, staff member and citizen of Temora Shire will join me in wishing Mrs Smith the most enjoyable time in this role, a role she has well and truly earned. Council will consider our draft budget later in today's meeting, and I'm very proud of our councillors and staff for spending a great deal of time analysing our budget position for 2020-2021 and coming up with a strong surplus of over $331,000. Doing so, we are also proposing an impressive $12 million capital works budget. I place on record Council's warm thanks to our General Manager, Mr Lavelle, and our entire finance team, headed by our new Director, Mrs Elizabeth Smith. Finally, I inform Council of a video conference meeting the General Manager and I had recently. This was with our Shire Sister City Council at Randwick. We met with Mayor Danny Said and General Manager Ms Teresa Mann. I simply wish to touch base with Council and our community to see how we are coping during COVID-19. We were talking for over an hour and Mayor Said asked me to send his very best wishes to all councillors, staff and every citizen. We're currently in discussions with the Mayor and General Manager to arrange a study tour visit to Randwick City in the first quarter of next year. We will keep Council informed as developments occur. And just lastly, Council, there is a late verbal addition that I would like to advise you of, and that is the Frank Widden Masonic Homes CEO, Mr Chris Mamorellis, has been in constant contact with Council, which we deeply appreciate. And I actually asked him to write a letter to Council to formalise discussions that we've been having in recent times. So I will read that letter to you that was sent to the General Manager just a moment ago. Dear Mr Lavelle, I'm writing to you in regards to the Widden Temora Aged Care Expansion Project. Due to a range of significant operational and financial challenges that our organisation is facing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, Widden has made the very difficult decision to defer the delivery of the project construction works until we are better placed to do so. This has been a very tough decision for the Widden Board and myself. We have proudly been part of the Temora community for over 40 years, and this project is a very exciting and special one for us, just like it is for you and your community. However, the reality is that the pandemic has created a high amount of uncertainty in regards to future cash flows and presents significant operational risks for us. It is for these reasons that regrettably we cannot proceed with the project works at this point in time. This decision does not impact the operations, services or care at Widden Temora in any way. The team remain absolutely committed to continuing operations and ensuring the safety and well-being of all residents during this challenging time. We are incredibly proud of the work they are doing to keep residents safe, well and connected throughout this pandemic. I want to reassure you and your councillors that the Board and I remain strongly committed to delivering this project once we are in a position to do so. We have been working very closely with Council, yourself and Mayor Furman over the years to bring this project to the stage it is at today. As you would know, we have completed significant groundwork to date. We have an approved development application and a construction partner who is aware of the situation and will be in an ideal position to return to the project at a later time, which is expected to be late next year. We remain committed to working in partnership with you and Temora Shire Council over the coming months as we monitor the situation. We are awaiting a response from the Commonwealth in regards to how our capital grant will be impacted as a result of this decision, which will help us to better understand when we may be able to progress the project. We look forward to providing more information to Council around this soon. We are genuinely disappointed to delay the project works. We're very grateful to Council for your ongoing support of our organisation, our residents, families and employees. Yours sincerely, Mr Chris Memorellis, the Chief Executive. So, Council, just from that, he and his team have addressed the residents yesterday at Narrabri and Greenstone Lodge to advise them and the staff, so they are aware of that. And Mr Memorellis wanted me to reinforce to Council that they are fully committed to this project. It will happen, and again, whether it's sooner or later, and they're projecting obviously late next year, but one way or the other, they will be building that new facility, which will be guided by what the Commonwealth Government dictates as well. So, councillors, I'm very grateful to Mr Memorellis for his constant communication with us and wanting to keep council involved and informed every single step of the way. So that's for your information, and I have nothing further for the Mayoral Minute other than there's a recommendation that it be noted that I'm happy to move. And is there a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. There, the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed to your white business papers. Page 6, the Mayor's report for the month of April. And over on page 9, there is a recommendation that the Mayor's report be noted. Thank you, Councillor Slade. Councillor Smith moved, seconded. All those further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Thank you very much. Councillor, we go over to page 10 over the page, and actually we'll now, instead of stuff, we'll go to delegates' reports. Councillors, I'm not sure whether there's too many delegates' reports. The only one, obviously, is with the Riverina Jail and Re-Rock, obviously, but that'll be considered later in correspondence. Thank you. Councillor Winky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The floodplain group met yesterday for a meeting, midday. I've got an update just as to how things were going for Area Park and Springdale. Moving along, and we'll look forward to further information that comes to hand as they get further with more survey work that's coming in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. So there's still some committees working very hard. That's good. Thank you very much. Further delegates, the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Local Government Committee met at just after lunch for 1:30 today, just looking at ways to perhaps celebrate Local Government Week without actually having people congregate. So our community services manager, officers, some pretty good ideas of putting together a video of 1 minute video of all the different aspects of council staff working, and just to show what careers are available, and as interviews with some of the various staff members and so forth. So I think that was very good idea. So it's interesting to see how it all come together. It sounds good, and it'll be something that'll be there for ongoing down the track for different other purposes too. For that's promotional work for the council and the area and so forth.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I agree that the officer has certainly been working very hard to come up with some innovative proposals, and we look forward to seeing them rolling out within budget, Madam Director. Some further delegates' reports. If not, I'd be pleased then to receive a motion that we hear staff reports. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Ryan, I'll move. And seconded, is there further discussion? If not, I'll put it. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 11, General Manager's report, 10.1, the events, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very comprehensive calendar of events, as you can see there. There's virtually nothing happening at the moment. We only had the Nixon Park Clubhouse soft opening, and that's allowed for up to 10 people. So it's not a big month. We've just got council consideration.
Thank you, Councillor. So in relation to that, we have sent, obviously, partly because the plaque was ordered and struck this bronze plaque some time ago, we've had to carry on with a soft opening. So Ms. Cook will be here, and we've invited the presidents of the various user groups, sort of not exceeding 10, but there may be some happen to be up there doing all sorts of different working bees and so on. Councillors, there is that recommendation there for you to consider that the calendar events be noticed. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Winky. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Councillor Joe.
Just a question, General Manager. Think there's any chance of having committee meetings in June?
Well, not at the moment, but on the 1st of June, there's going to be a substantial reopening of things. It depends what's in that order, but at the moment, even this meeting is in the air, you know, whether we can actually hold it or not, and certainly we can't allow like members of the clergy or members of the public in. But I'm hoping that it's not that too far away. It's probably likely if they go to 20 people in an outdoor area, then yeah, we could have it.
Nothing better than the winters.
Just in time for free.
I don't think we're fine. But Councillor, just pick up on what the General Manager said, that even us meeting here, well, we did reach out to Inspector Robovich, who you've all met, and asked him, his advice as well. So he deemed it our formal meeting as essential business, and he supported what we're doing. So we did ask him his legal advice in that space. So thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those with that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 12, 10.2, the seals. General Manager.
There are only 3 seals there, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, and the third dot point the General Manager advises is in relation to the Morangell Road.
What road?
Morangell Road. Morangell Road. So that's just for your information. Someone prepared to move the recommendation that Council seal be affixed to those documents. Thank you, Councillor Winky. Councillor Oliver moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 13, 10.3, area park fees. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has come as a request from the area park community projects, and they wanted to know. Council made a commitment some time ago to put the money made out of the landfill out there back to the community through a community grants program. The account's currently got $3,815 in there. It's increasing quite regularly, and it's probably the time when we should be looking at the first round of this grant funding. In the initial report that went to council, all that was said was that a selection criteria would be determined, and the conditions would be that it's, or the only condition that was on it was that it was a community benefit, a broad community benefit. So it's really up to council as to which way they want to go. A suggestion has been made that maybe the area park advisory committee could be referred to for applications and maybe sort through them. But yeah, but there's a bit of money there at the moment.
Thank you. I think I don't know, I'll defer to Councillor Judd, but I actually like the idea of the advisory committee doing some of that work and then presenting their thoughts back to council. But Councillor Judd, your view?
Yeah, I'm happy with that, but I was going to suggest that maybe we time it that this is done in end of June every year or every second year or something, you know, so
A bit of consistent.
yeah. My own recommendation with that.
Thank you. Is there any other comments or Councillor Judd, are you wishing to put a motion to council?
I'll move that way that we contact the Dairy Park Advisory Committee and ask them to call for submissions on this one, and the balance be that we done in July probably, and let the balance be at the 30th of June this year.
And that we have an annual, we captured that, Director?
Yeah, and all based on
You happy with that, Councillor Judd? Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Slade, thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not,
Yeah, the only question is, do you want the advisory committee to bring recommendations back to council?
yes, that was my understanding. Is that what the mover and seconder are thinking? Yeah. So they do the work of the expression of interest, submit to them, then they would report back the advisory committee back to council with their recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Now, page 14, 10.4, payment of fees and expenses, General Manager.
This was the policy that came to council last month. It's been out for public comment. We've received no public comment in relation to it, so it's due for adoption.
Thank you. Councillor Smith. Good moving that way.
That way.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor moved and seconded. There further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Aye. No. There that carried. Seems we're doing block motions, aren't we? Because, yes, we're very spread out. Now, let's go to page 15, 10.5, the operational plan review for General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's as provided, comments as of the third quarter of the year. If there's any comments or any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions or comments in relation to the Quarter 3 review, please, councillors? There's only one that I had just in relation to on page 95 in relation to the youth. And obviously it's council of regret hearing the resignation of our youth officer yesterday. The additional 8 adult mentors. Now, can you confirm if they are doing this in honorary capacity or are they receiving a fee?
It's voluntary capacity.
So it is voluntary, yeah. Okay. That's great that we've got so many people who are willing to donate their time to help mentor our young people. I just think that's terrific. Councillor Slade?
Just a little gobsmacked at the other announcement you just made. Does that mean Kim has gone?
General Manager?
She's tendered, the youth officer has tendered resignation. She hasn't finished yet. I think she'll stay on as long as we need her to stay on. She is finishing.
There was an email sent out, Councillor Slade, yesterday, I understand, from the Human Resources Officer to councillors. And, No, yeah.
And look, she was doing some wonderful work. Yes. And it'll be a real loss.
I presume there will be an opportunity for us to express that view.
Well, that's Councillor Slade, as Chairman of the Youth Committee. I think that's something that if you'd like to talk to us later date, we can suggest something to council that's appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, anything further in the operational plan review? If not, there, I suppose that we're noting that. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, just a note.
Yeah, so I'd like a motion, please, that we note the report. Councillor Winkie, thank you. The Deputy Mayor moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I just wish I could get that many green traffic lights on my way to Sydney next time.
See, I'm so glad someone used that line. I really am. That's very, very good. No, it is good, and I think that was a vile compliment. Well done. Well done to the staff involved, everyone. I'll put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 101, 10.6. Hire of mobile stage. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, this is a revisit of the policy. We currently have two types of hire. One is a private hire for 21st or whatever else, and the other is a community hire. The problem exists that private hire are somewhat higher risk than community hires, and it's probably, well, I think anyway, is not in the realms of what council expects of the mobile station to provide that facility. So I'm suggesting that we actually delete the potential for private hire and just have it for community use only.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Move that way.
So you're moving what is the recommendation?
Yeah, community use.
Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Councillor Judd moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Councillor Slade.
Just a clarification on community use. Do we mean groups of people? For example, Catholic Church makes use of it every Christmas.
Yes, that's a
If it's available.
Yes.
Yes.
Just not for private use, for a company or a 21st.
For Mr. and Mrs. Smith to host the 70th wedding anniversary party. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a poor example. Anyway, that's the one that comes to mind.
The definition of community hire is defined as a non-profit or organisations who are substantially community focused within Temora Shire Council area. So, and council will be the final arbiter on the status of applicants. So, a church group would fit perfectly into that. Whereas, all we're trying to do is get away from that potential, just degrading the unit for the purpose of a private event, which is not what it's for.
Thank you. Satisfied with that answer, Councillor Slade?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's still our policy, General Manager, not to hire it to other Shire communities.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's just for Temora Shire.
Within the
That
Temora
hasn't
Shire.
changed. It's got to be within the Temora Shire.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Winkie, further discussion.
The inevitable question, I suppose, it had to come.
See, I didn't ask it.
This is horrible.
It was going to be one of the other. General Manager.
At the moment, no.
Red.
The company that built it is in Queensland, and we can't deal with the company in Queensland because of the border closure at the moment. So we have an issue. We're waiting until they can actually be here and fix it.
We've gotten to the point that we can't even write the script anymore for the responses we're going to receive. They're always very unique. Now, we know it's frustrating, Mr. General Manager, but thanks, Councillor Winkie, because I promised him I wouldn't ask the question. Thank you. I will go to Councillor Smith and Councillor Judd, the mover and seconder of the motion that's before us. Are you happy just to let your motion go as in adopting the policy, not putting it back out to public exhibition, or what's your wish?
I'll adopt it the way it is.
Are you happy with that? Okay, so I'll put that motion after discussion. All those in that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Nothing of an urgent, late nature, Mr. General Manager, at this point?
No.
Thank you. Councillors, let's now proceed to page 111, the engineering services report. 11.1 motorcycle parking bays in Hoskins Street, and that is the engineering technical manager. Thank you, the manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the report is as written. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I think because motorbikes can park in any of the car parks, I don't see this necessarily have too many specific motorbike parking areas. And I think option 2 is probably to go where we take out that little park of an extra car park and have the other 2 as specific motorbike parks, and also have them stenciled that way too.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. You and Councillor Smith are talking as bikies, or?
And
thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, the only thing I find is the one up near the pedestrian crossing. You see, I have seen F-250s parked in there and they hang out a fair way. Yeah, they're illegally parked. Anyway, I just think a number of other people that ride bikes have said, you know, there's small cars parked in there, and they said, you know, if they got 20 people on bikes and took one park each down the street, everybody would jump up and down and go crook. Where here, you know, with a bike, you can put 2 bikes in there. You legally only have to put 1 bike in there. But I'll go with what the majority says.
Thank you. I think you've done well to at least get it to this point, Councillor Smith. It's been an issue you've had, and at least we're now discussing it, which I think is a positive step forward. The Deputy Mayor, did you wish to?
I'll move. We go with option 2.
You'll move that we go.
A stencil.
Pardon?
Which includes putting a stencil on.
Okay. Thank you. Move that way. Is there a seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Oliver? Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Over to page 115, 11.2 Matthew Street ceiling. The engineering technical manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Again, this was spoken about, I think, either at the council budget workshop or at the last council meeting. Just one mistake in this report. The recommendation is not to bring it to 2021, it's to leave it at 2021/22. So,
well, the managers nearly give our newly appointed director, she nearly had kittens.
Yeah.
When she saw that.
But yeah, the report is as written. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rob, is it your intention to seal the entire strip down from where the red line starts? Is that
that's correct?
I don't believe it's necessary to go past the Boo Street, to be honest with you. I mean, or perhaps even the Icon Kitchen, because you're going to stop a lot of traffic going down there. They've never complained about dust in that particular area there. It's only this one particular resident where this complaint comes from. That's where the main businesses are. I don't see it necessary to go that entire distance itself, but
thanks.
I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver. I'll go to the manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think if we don't go full length, I think we'll, like across all of the residents, I think we'll get requests after. The other thing is I have heard that the kitchen business may close at some point in the future. So if that did happen, I don't have so be a business there and want that section being sealed. However, I still support the concept of sealing behind the premises. But yeah, there are some major issues at the other end that if we decide to go down that path should be fixed, which I don't really see a need for it to link with the IP road.
Thank you.
I'm not sure about the Icon Kitchen closing. That's just a brand new business just taken over.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
That would have something.
No. That's,
It's only just taken over.
yeah. No, my intel's probably not correct.
And the previous owner has
Finished.
retired.
Yeah, and that's probably what I heard.
Councillors, I just remind us all, councillors and senior staff, to please remember to project our voices. Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Winky.
A question I had might be best left till we discuss further down the track on the road. I think.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Winky. The Deputy Mayor.
Now, I think if we're going to seal any part of the road, we need to seal behind all those houses, otherwise, Council Blackman knows who don't get their access to the property sealed. They're still going to get dust. The next door neighbour might still be sealed, so I think we need to treat it whole area as one. Seal that whole area that's on the blue.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I was down that area a few weeks ago, and the amount of even big tractors and air seeders and stuff that go down in that street, I thought, why wouldn't they go over the line and go down Ashford Street? But I don't know, but depends which way they come and where they're going, I suppose. If they're coming in from Young Road or somewhere, and they might sneak down the back road and then back down that lane. You know, I don't know. I was there, and the amount of traffic that was in that lane was a lot.
Well, I think it's important we're teasing this out, councillors, because I mean, effectively, the recommendation that we have before us from the engineering department is recommending that we investigate the option of upgrading that section of Matthews Street in 21-22. So it's not, actually committing us, but it is, if we did accept this, it is committing council staff time to look into it. So that's why I think if we're committed to that, let's do it. If we're not, then let's throw it out.
Yes.
The manager.
Thanks to me. I think our plan would be is if council adopted this particular recommendation between now and when funding become available, we would investigate the idea of upgrading and closing that section, probably do some community consultation, also have a look at how this may affect John Holland. So there'd be a bit of water to go under the bridge before I think would fully commit, and that would be in the lead up to the next budget.
Yes. Yep. Okay. The Deputy Mayor.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Second for the motion, Councillor Smith. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go over to page 118, 11.3, Combating Road proposed renaming. That's the technical engineering manager.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. There's just a naming issue with the Combating Road. The report is as written. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor, the Deputy Mayor.
It is confusing, this road, because the north and south ends of the road is there's probably a couple of k's of the old Munda Road that runs in between the two of them. It's not appropriate and we've been here before over 7 years ago, just this one, but it's really not appropriate to have the same sort of name on both sections of the road. So I think the northern section from the fairly good way to the Combating to the Old Cooter Road, we should have a name change, and the other section, because it goes into the Junior Shire, should be left as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's another road, the old Wagga Road. That's also signposted north and south too, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Manager.
yeah, through Mr. Mayor, it doesn't cause the same issues because this is Combating Road and there is no longer a north and south. What happened from the old Cootamundra Road, it's addressed all the way to the Golfers Way near Junee. So if we go and change, we go and readdress, we've got to readdress every single, we add 3 kilometres to the front of the network. It's got to be addressed all the way to the Wallah Road in the Junee Shire. So we can't really leave it the same name unless we want to readdress everything, or we rename this section, which we feel is the easiest option.
Councillor Oliver?
Oh, well, yeah, I agree with all that. I'm just wondering, do we go through the names now? Is that something we do?
Well, I would have thought that we'd go out to, if council of that mind, you'd put it out for public submissions, and then after that time, they're brought back to council and they're considered together with anything that councillors may wish to put in the mix.
I'm just saying 5 generations of bushel on the one farm is probably stand out. But
Yeah, that's right. It certainly is. Councillor Winky.
I think it's ideal time to do something about it, and it would certainly sort out some problems that are out there, and I think we should go ahead and do it.
Would you like to
I'll move that way.
in that direction? We see
That we rename the north end of Convent Road.
and call for public submissions on suggested names for council to consider. Thank you. Second for the motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I'll move and second it. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, over to page 121, 11.4, Unnamed Road, Springdale Marnie Road, the engineering technical manager.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Again, the report is as written. I'm happy to answer any questions. This has resulted from a previous council resolution where we were asked to get some legal advice. That's since happened, and yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Councillors, there is a report there. It's obviously your team, Mr. Manager, and the Works Manager, you're doing a very good job in this space, and it's finding all these anomalies that seem to be fairly costly anomalies. But anyway, we keep chipping away. It won't affect the budget too much. The Deputy Mayor.
Mayor, I realise this does cost a bit of money, but I think it's something that council start working out on these unnamed roads, also roads that are in the wrong place. That's caused a few issues as far as liability and so forth goes. And also, especially with roads on not in the right area, but also unnamed roads, if there happens to be an incident of some sort and someone's trying to let someone know where it is, if there's no road name, it's basically very awkward to pinpoint where you are. So yes, I think we need to go ahead, even though it's costly, to get all these roads in the right, set up in the right order and so forth.
Not all at once, though.
No, I think something just that we perhaps allocate a certain amount of money a year to go towards this, because apparently there's quite a few across the whole Shire that road reserves, the roads are on the road reserve. So, it's $8,000 this, so perhaps $20,000 a year could be allocated to 2 or 3 of these roads a year to get sorted out.
Thank you. I'll just go from that to the Director of Administration and Finance. Madam Director, what's your views in terms of the suggestion of the Deputy Mayor about a specific pocket of money? And further, if that is the case, what about if Council wants to proceed and do this now, what's before us, where will that money come from?
So as we probably some general applications in the engineering operations area that we fund this year. Going forward, probably really is an ongoing issue. We can make a specific application for it.
Well, the engineering department never had as much money in their portfolio. Thank you, Director. Councillor Winky.
Yeah, I just support the words that the Deputy Mayor has spoken, and I think it's a very wise move to continue working on these roads and get them sorted as they come. Having that with the funds, I think, is ideal, so that we can work on some and without overloading the engineering department all in one hit as well.
Thank you, Councillor Winky. Whoops. So, councillors, what would you like to do in this space? There seems to be a mood that we do proceed and that we further have a special revote for this type of works in the future. The Deputy Mayor?
I'll move that way that we go ahead with three orders.
What allocation or?
Well, to start with allocating a sum of money per year towards roads reserves or sorting out their road reserves, and then we go ahead with this particular one at this stage.
So you're suggesting that we go through the expression of interest or the submission, public submission as part for naming that Springdale.
Yep.
Second, Councillor Winky. Moved and seconded. As the Director captured that. Yep. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Slade.
I think that the Deputy Mayor has captured the importance of this in pointing out that if a crisis occurs, if an emergency takes place, it is chaos and confusion without those additional names. So I think that, and actually I'd like to see it with the mover and seconders permission, I'd like to see that included in the motion so that in 2 or 3 years' time, when council is sitting down to yet gain some money on this particular thing, that we don't forget that that is the purpose of the exercise. So with the mover's permission, could you do something, through you, Mr. Chair? Could you do something in the light of the emergency implications or something like that? Are you happy enough with that?
Yeah, I have to say, Councillor Slade, just when you mentioned that, the Deputy Mayor mentioned that to me earlier today, because I was a bit, well, not real keen to be frank, but when he mentioned that to me, that's exactly what changed my whole attitude personally, and I see nods around the chamber. So the mover and second are happy to include that, and I'm sure our wordsmith director. Okay, move and second. Further discussion, Councillor McLaren.
Was the motion to do the Manu Road as well, or was the motion to do the Manu Road as well?
I understand that it was just the Springdale Road, but Mr. Deputy Mayor, what was? Pardon?
I was including the Manu Road.
Oh, okay, I beg your pardon. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. So move and second are happy with that. Okay. There's no further discussion. Not. Put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you very much. A very busy engineering department, obviously, in the last month anyway. We now go over to page 128, 11.5, airport upgrade. A very important report, and that's in the hands of the works manager. The manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Reports as written, and you would not have. We have to divide the stage 2 into 2 parts because of wet weather and oncoming winter. But it's not going to impact the delivery time frame. In a week or 1 week time, the work will cease, and we will restart in the month of August, weather permitting. And probably I will be submitting more reports once we recommence or we commence the work. So there won't be any report or any update for next couple of council meetings. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mr. Manager. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bill, the finding of the wet subsoil and you have to dig it all out, how much would that impact on the budget?
We will observe, Mr. Mayor, we will absorb within that project funding. We'll find some savings elsewhere.
I believe it was a substantial amount of earth that had to be taken out.
Yes, it was about 120 square meters, and probably on an average 700 will deep, so close to 100 cubic meters. But was we have to when it's opened up, we have to do it properly, and it's just there, and it's gonna be permanent and gonna sit there forever.
You find the source of the water, or is it just ground seepage, or the drain was lost in time, or what?
What we found was there's a very little payment or good ground material, and it was sitting under a clay surface. Basically, it was black soil, and it has a tendency when we open it up, it just becomes slop, and if moisture gets into that, that's it. There's no way you can rework it, so we have to dig it out, and then we found a solid base. So we were fortunate; it was just 700 deep. So that's some additional material and a couple of days of additional work, but it shouldn't impact the overall budget.
We'd like to hear that, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Further comments? I understand the General Manager advised councillors that a federal member's office has been given a report to update him on the progress, so that's important, which is great. Thank you. Councillors, you've heard from the manager. And there is recommendation that we note the report. Councillor Oliver, Councillor Reinhold moved and seconded. Further discussion? Not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you very much. Now let's go to page 133, 11.6. Local Roads Congress, the Engineering Technical Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The report is as written.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Judd, you're normally our delegate, and I understand this is the video one this time. What's your views?
Engineers are delegate.
Ah, yes, sorry, but you're the guest.
Yes. So it all depends where the engineer's going to go.
Yes. So, Mr. Manager, are you, or one of the managers, are you going to sit in on this?
I'm happy to, but if you want to...
Works Manager?
If I may, normally it's online webinar. We are not going or traveling, so it's a low-cost option, and I think it would be worthwhile to have two person attending, and I think that will allow two council staff plus councillors if they wish to.
So we could have both our engineering managers and Councillor Judd, who has traditionally, obviously, been. So that would be permissible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? That's
Manager.
amazing.
Yeah, I've heard that. To get along with. Exactly.
That's a long
There's a couple of good things.
True, Mr. Mayor, I think it's a good opportunity because it's on the delivered by webinar, no one's traveling, so I think low cost option is.
Thank you. Well, Councillor Judd, have you got something you'd like to put in terms of a motion?
I didn't really catch that's what the plan is. What's the plan? The engineers going?
Well, my understanding was that both the managers, engineering managers, would attend along with yourself.
Oh, I'm happy with that.
So you're happy to...
Another councillor can go free if they want.
And another councillor. If there was one more that would like to attend, we have that capacity as well. And is that still at that price?
Yeah, so basically, each time a staff member buys a ticket, you get one complimentary councillor ticket.
So that's 365?
Yeah, 365 for 2 tickets each, so it's $700.
True, Mr. Mayor, it's a buy one, get one free.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. Thanks. So, okay, so the budget implications...
Double.
Yes, okay. But having said that, from what Councillor Judd and the engineers have said over particularly recent years. I've only ever been to one, but it is worthwhile.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, as the Works Manager said, like a traditional attendance to this course would be more than double, probably triple, because you're paying for accommodation and travel and
That's true.
all sorts of stuff.
Anyway, $730 off the roads budget, probably not a bad deal. Councillor Judd, you're happy to move? Yes. Sorry, Councillor Winky.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be happy to attend if there's a spare.
Excellent. Thank you. So Councillor Judd, Councillor Winky, and our two engineering managers. Excellent. So Councillor Judd, you're prepared to move that way. Second for the motion, please. Councillor McLaren moved and seconded. Further discussion.
Unfortunately, having a Zoom meeting, whatever it is, what are the benefits of going to those conferences and networking what you've achieved down there, which I know last year I had a really good talk to the Minister tea time, but you can't really achieve that over a Zoom meeting, but hopefully we'll be back to normal next year. So.
We will be. No, you're spot on, Councillor Judd, and that's why, I know we all like to look at the dollars, but yeah, you're right, it is an investment. The networking, not just with ministers and opposition, shadow ministers, but also other mayors, councillors, engineers. It's invaluable, really. It's been moved and seconded, councillors, that we have Councillor Judd, Councillor Winky, and the two engineering managers attend the 2020 roads conference via video link. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you very much. Anything of an urgent, late nature from the managers? No. Thank you very much. Councillors, we now proceed over to page 136, the Environmental Services Department report, 12.1. LEP amendment. The Director, thank you, the Director.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Presenting this on behalf of the Town Planner. The next stage in our amendment number 8 of our LEP, and this is a consultation phase reporting on that, and, as written otherwise.
Thank you. Director, councillors, is there any comments, questions to the Director? Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the biodiversity section, it says that council has a duty to ensure the clearing of native vegetation. And then in the paragraph below it says the council will encourage applicants to avoid clearing. How will that encouragement be complied with? Is it is it optional or?
Well,
the Director.
It's a bit of a general statement. There's not much native vegetation left on the site, so it's cleared agricultural land, basically. But, conditions of consent where appropriate on an individual basis. Short answer to that.
Thank you, Mr. McLaren. Further comments or questions of the Deputy Mayor?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. So you're moving the recommendation on the bottom of page 140. Second, Councillor Smith. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. It's been remiss of me, councillors, to mention the unanimous bit at the end, so I will endeavour to do that. Councillors, we proceed over to page 179. 12.2, Area Park Preschool Developer Contribution Fees. The Director.
As written, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, your comments, your thoughts. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering if this is one for the KIP money. So, generated by the Area Park community, and it's going back into the Area Park community, so I don't know.
Well,
it's one that came to mind anyway.
Yeah, well, we're here to tease out all options. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Other discussion, Councillor, just while you're thinking, the Director of Administration Finance, just what support has Council given to date in relation to this project, please?
From purchase order, that's, a bit under $8,000 with legal fees. But they're going to repay that.
Yeah, over what we would say?
I don't think the terms have been marked out yet. In the budget, I allowed 5 years, but
That's odd, but we wouldn't have set a
I haven't seen an agreement yet.
Anyway, thank you. Just for some background, that's all. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think given the huge community effort they've had in raising $35,000 and it's been largely community driven, then I think that they're doing a great service for that community. The least we could do is to waive that section 9418.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, the problem with waiving fees is you set a precedent. And one leads to the next, and this happens in a number of different things that we set precedents at. And that's the only thing that worries me is that people, you waive the fees, you then set a precedent.
You're saying, in effect, Councillor Smith, if council are of a mind to wanting to give these this value, what they normally pay for the developer contributions, that it would be a donation as opposed to.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. No, I accept your point. Thank you. It's an important point, Councillor Smith. I suppose, councillors, my initial reaction was, to be frank, was, well, first of all, you know, what are we currently doing, and that's, but we do need to tease out, make sure we get those terms so everyone knows what they're up for. But part of me was saying, well, yes, outstanding, 35,000, that is phenomenal effort for any community group, particularly a village. So, you know, huge tick and anything's doable. But then I looked at the last sentence for me, and I've underlined it on page 179 of the Town Planner's report, that the money collected is to provide for the support of community projects throughout Temora Shire. And that's why, you know, I'm thinking, well, gee whiz, those funds collected will go into that pool that we, you know, basically recently started for projects that they could well benefit from as well. So that was why, yeah, I wasn't overly keen, to be frank, but anyway, thank you. Councillor McLaren.
I would argue that this is a community project and we are effectively donating to a community project.
Yeah. Welcome to argue that.
It's not for private interest of property, is it?
Oh yeah, 100%. But again, it's not an easy one when you're trying to go through it in your mind. But I accept that. Councillor Judd.
I would support Councillor McLaren's remarks. I think it is a worthwhile community project. And for a village like Area Park in these days and times, it's the young families in the district with the preschools to have the confidence to build a new preschool. I think it's great news, I think. And I know I'm looking forward to what's happening in the coming 12 months. And I think, you know, we should be very proud of what's happening, that, you know, we've got this growth and development in our Shire.
Oh, I think you're right, Councillor Judd, in the sense that I think every one of us are proud of what they've achieved and what they will achieve going forward, and it sends a positive signal about the way the Shire is going. It is exciting. So yeah, but as I say, I'm personally just was torn, and that's why we're here to hear everyone's point of view. The Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to move, Mayor, that waive the $650 for the form of a donation.
So out of the donations budget?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So the Deputy Mayor has moved that way, that we donate the fees equivalent to the developer contributions and that have come from the donations budget. Seconded for the motion, Councillor Judd. Moved and seconded. Discussion, Councillor Slade.
We're not going to establish a precedent, are we?
Oh, it's a donation.
That's
Question didn't have a question mark behind it. I was sure.
I don't know. I take it. cheeky now, don't we?
I don't know about all.
Whoops. These microphones on. Okay, councillors, you have a motion before you that those fees be donated back to the Area Park Preschool Committee from our donations budget. There's no further discussion. If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. So the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, over to page 182, 12.3, Temora High School proposal. The Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Very preliminary proposal being put forward by the Temora High School for a joint project for a fishing station up at Gloucester Park. So for Council's consideration whether they want to participate.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Short answer, no. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, we have gym equipment at the lake, which is utilised. We have 2 gyms in the community which rely on people using them. No, I can't see that we should be involved in this when we already have gym equipment around and plus 2 gymnasiums.
Well,
I mean, we got a bit of flack when we done the ones at the lake anyway from one of the gyms, so.
that's true. Unfortunately, our argument was that we, as a Temora Shire Council, did not put money into it, that was grant funded. So that was the argument we were able to legitimately present. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. I'll go to the Deputy Mayor.
Look, my thoughts are that it's something we could perhaps improve in principle, but at no cost to council. So if the high school want to find the money and put the gym equipment there, that's fine. But improving the idea.
Thank you. Councillor Winky.
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion as Councillor Sinclair, Mr Mayor. Yep, we need to be fully funded by grants for us to sort of be participating in it, or our section of it anyway.
Thank you. I was a bit concerned, councillors, to be frank. I mean, again, I think it's great, and I know we all do. Ideas, this is what it's all about, throwing around ideas. So that, for us, is a tick. But then in there, letter saying that, council could receive contributing funding towards the project from the high school. That's where I would have thought that would have been a genuine commitment if they were keen, but there is that uncertainty there, and I do agree with the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Oliver, Councillor Winky, that I don't believe council should be funding this at all, but yet, if it is grant funded or however funded through the high school, if we look to consider accommodating location in that Gloucester Park. Other comments? Thoughts? Motion? The Deputy Mayor?
I'll move that we approve in principle the idea, but at no cost to council.
Thank you. Second for the motion, Councillor Winky. Moved and seconded. Further discussion? So yes, just so councillors realise that adopting the principle of the idea of fitness equipment in Gloucester Park. However, it will not be at any cost to Temora Shire Council. They captured the motion, move and second. The intent.
You want to add advice?
Move and second. Would you like to include and further that we advise the high school to seek grant funding, or do you think that's just a matter for them? Yeah, they can sort that out. Yeah. Okay. Move and second. Further discussion? With no further discussion, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Nothing further of an urgent late nature from the Director?
Nothing, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you. Councillors, we now proceed to page 187, the Administration and Finance Department report. Before her maiden report, I defer to the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the report is as written. It's just the routine instruction of records in accordance with GA 49.
Thank you. And the Director has a recommendation there for you councillors to consider. Councillor Winkie?
I'll move the recommendation.
Move the recommendation. Thank you. Second, Councillor Smith. Moved. Seconded. Further discussion? Not. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Over to page 189, 13.2, library funding. The Director.
Thank you. So the report again is as written, and it's just phase 2 of the Renew Our Libraries campaign. As written and represented.
Councillors, you've heard from the Director, and very, very important part. Council were very strong supporters of this initial campaign, which I think the Director acknowledged that was successful. That's stage 1. However, I think that commitment of increased funding runs out the 22-23 financial year.
That's right.
So the Director has a recommendation for you to consider. Councillor Oliver.
I'll move the recommendation.
You move that way. Thank you. Is there a second for the motion? Councillor Winkie. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Not. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. You're on a roll, Madam Director, so wrap it up. Because now we're getting to tough territory. 191, 13.3 fees and charges for 2020-2021. The Director.
Thank you. So the fees and charges are as presented. I didn't take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor, I'll go to Councillor Smith.
I was just going to say, move the recommendation.
Just before you do,
yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Just before you do, I did have a discussion with the Director earlier today, just in relation to, I couldn't see any lease agreement for the Arts and Cultural Centre. So I think that is being worked out between you and the General Manager.
That's correct, Mr.
General Manager.
Yeah. What we need to sit down and work through those processes from here. What's happened in the past 12 months has been a continuation of an existing agreement, which probably is not really fitting for what we're going to be doing up there. There's the issue of utilities and a whole range of issues like that. So we'll be talking to them, sitting down with that group and talking to them about some sort of licence agreement for that site.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, is there any other comment before I go to Councillor Smith? Councillor Judd.
Yes, just on page 205 on curbing and guttering, which is a bit over halfway down. It's come to a notice from the technical manager and myself for looking at projects, a couple at Erie Park, for the footpaths, one price for the frontage of a block and half the price for the side. Well, for the curb and guttering, it's got the one price. Now, when we applied that to a project at Erie Park on the side, the contribution was up to nearly $5,000, which I reckon is going to shock people if they get it like that. I think I'd just like to see it. I thought it always was, but brought into line with the footpath policy, so that the side of a block, which is usually more than twice as long, it come in half the price.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. The Director, do you have any?
I thought it was the same. I had the same kind of issues, so I'll look into that for you.
Right. I know it was the policy, I don't know how it slipped away.
Hang on. The manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've had a look at our current policy, and it's definitely not in our fees and charges. And there was a policy that was in a footpaths. And it refers to another council policy that I haven't found yet.
Thank you. Director?
I'll look into that and I'll let you know.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Was that Councillor Oliver?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think, like, we probably haven't had too many workshops just recently. I think we should have an in-depth look at some of these. And because some of them are quite modest, been that way for a long, long time. So, and I thought we were going to look at the fees and charges in the workshop, and we're discussing the airport maintenance fee. We haven't done.
We certainly did flag, Councillor Oliver, that I think that was an intention to have a workshop. I just recall that, to be frank. This is, again, a draft that's before us. I asked the Director, in terms of timing, it's probably not ideal, but Director.
Technically, it's supposed to go on display tomorrow, so it's probably a bit late to do a workshop for this year's fees and charges. I think we can look at for next year.
It certainly would coincide with the review that we're hoping to have in the next 12 months or so into the sporting ground usage policies, fees, charges, etc. So, yes.
I'm happy for it to take place next year, as long as it does take place, because we did flag it.
Yes, we did. You're quite right. And that's obviously got lost in the transition, as you'd appreciate, Councillor Oliver. So, yeah, if that's something that we can lock in, or even if someone wanted to move the motion, I'll go back to Councillor Smith. I think you were going to move
the recommendation because it was only to put it down public exhibition.
Yeah, so are you prepared to move that way and further that we have an annual workshop on fees and charges? Yeah. So obviously we do that for the budget, but then we also have a separate one dedicated to fees and charges.
I'll go with that.
All right, so you'll move that way. Second for the motion. Councillor Judd, thank you. Discussion, Councillor Oliver.
Thank you. I don't know that it needs to be annually. I think biannual, or perhaps even...
Or as required.
As required.
Yeah. Okay,
so it was a little bit much because it's a fair bit in that.
So the Director, your advice?
I think perhaps each term of council, or even every 4 years would be.
Yeah, because each councillor gets to analyse them every year, number one. Yeah. Number two, if there is a dedicated workshop once during the term of the council, I think that would be sufficient to have a real in-depth. Yeah. So the move and second are happy to amend the frequency. Yep. Mover. Okay. Thank you. Moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Judd, is Councillor Slade all right? Or?
Go ahead, check it.
Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed over to page 210, 13.4, the draft operational plan of the Director.
So the budget pages are presented as presented. I just wanted to make a note that normally we also have a report in here to talk about the remuneration tribunal as far as councillors and mayoral allowances. So as a result of COVID-19, they've been extended, they've been granted a 2-month extension, making a decision on that. So the council fees that are in the budget are what we're on currently, plus 2.5%, but depending on the outcome of that remuneration tribunal, that may vary slightly. But otherwise, it's as presented. There's a reconciliation of adjustments that we made from the workshops now. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Madam Director. The councillors, I noted it in my mayoral minutes at the start of this meeting, and I say it again. I'm very, very pleased indeed with all of you in this chamber and those on your team, Madam Director, to get us to present to our community a draft budget item of a surplus of over 330,000. I think that's outstanding. The work, obviously, to get there wasn't easy, but I think it is outstanding. And to have a $12 million capital works budget as well, and yes, there's federal and state government grants involved there, but still, this is an outstanding position, I think, that we're presenting to the community. You agree?
It is. We just have to.
See, I love it. We've got to stick to it. Oh dear. Okay, councillors. She means that lovingly. There is a report there, very important report, councillors, that this be placed on public exhibition. Councillor McLaren, you'll move that way. Second, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. Effectively, it's a recommendation. So, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. I declare that motion is carried. Thank you. Councillors, I'm just going to pause for a moment. Can we just see how Councillor Slade, Councillor Judd?
Yeah, we just put him outside. He just wanted fresh air.
Okay.
And he was going to see how he was going, and then if he didn't feel well, he was going to get someone back in. That hasn't happened yet.
Okay. So as long as he's all right, that's
It's
good.
still very light.
Okay. Now let's proceed. Council, I'm just conscious, Mr. General Manager, that we have Councillor Judd that's obviously out caring for him as well. So thank you, Executive Assistant, if you can. Thanks, Councillor, for your patience. We just need to make sure that okay.
Coming back and see how it goes. But if you get a slide ahead again, you just got to go home.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Judd. Okay. Thank you. I just thought, councillors, for this important report in correspondence for the JO, that it was also for them to be in here for that. That was all.
Mr. Mayor.
The Works Manager.
I just wanted to provide information about the work we're going to do in Main Street, Hoskins Street. There is an item on council budget or capital works list, concrete infill in Main Street roundabout, Victoria and Hoskins Street, and Park Street and Hoskins Street roundabout. We intend to start commence work Tuesday next week, that's just 26th May. So just for information. And if everything goes well at Victoria Street, Hoskins Street roundabout, we'll move to Park Street and Hoskins Street roundabout next. The works are scheduled for next week.
Thank you very much for the update. Thank you. Welcome back, Councillor Slay and Councillor Judd. Councillor Slay, we obviously want to make sure that you're going okay, and I thank Councillor Judd for going to check on you, but I'd simply say to you, if you are not feeling well, you have to do the right thing. But if you persevere, that's great, but you've got to look after you, number one.
Thank you. I've always been trying to tell my wife.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. Thank you. Thanks, councillors, for your patience in waiting. Councillors, we now proceed. There's nothing of an urgent late nature from the Director of Admin and Finance. There's nothing of an urgent late nature from the Director.
291 services.
Who's that?
291.
Beg your pardon? Have that doggy. There you go. So my apologies, councillors. We go to page 291 of the Director of Admin and Finance report. Excuse me, 13.5, the Emergency Services Levy increase. The Director.
Thank you. So the report is just talking about the increase in the emergency services levy and the assistance that's being offered in relation to COVID-19 for our increase in the emergency services levy to be paid. But of course, there's conditions attached to that in regards to our continuing support of the JO. So that needs to be considered.
Thank you. Councillors, I think that when all of you had that matter brought to your attention in relation to the Office of Local Government advising that this stimulus package, which is great for those that are eligible for other aspects of the stimulus package for local government. I understand, Madam Director, that we're only eligible for the Emergency Services Levy rebate, nothing else. Thank you. But frankly, I'll go to our Deputy Mayor who sits on the Riverina Joint Organisation Board. But to be, some could argue, blackmailed by the OLG that if we do not continue to fund an organisation that is absolutely, in my personal view, a waste of time, effort and money, I find that deeply, deeply disappointing, particularly when the state government were made aware 12 months ago that these JOs were not financially sustainable. Every one of them signed a letter, as I did as chairman of Riverina JO. And for them to, I am extremely disappointed. Those initial views have been shared with our state member. I certainly know that other mayors and councillors, DMs across the region are equally, if not more, disappointed than I am, and I cannot wait to hear what you, as Temora Shire councillors, have to say, and for that matter, senior staff. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for the moment, so I'll go to the Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's very hard at this stage to know which way to go here until the decision is made on the JO, where the council supports the JO. Yeah, it's very ordinary that condition has been put on this the access to this funding for this levy. Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable they'll do something like this. Particularly when those councils that aren't in a JO for whatever reason, they find they'll get the funding. Beggars believe, actually. So, but anyway, I think the recommendation is basically covers it at this stage. The report till we decide on exactly way we go to the JO, whether we go on with JO and get the funding for the next 2 years, or we decide to pay it ourselves, and which I just don't think that we can afford to do that. A lot of money. Be interested to see other councils got to say.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd also like to see us make formal representations to Steph as Temora Shire Council as well. I certainly know that other councils within her footprint, they have got meetings with her. She's going to be in Temora at some stage next week, and I'd really like to have those discussions with her, well, ideally face to face, to express those sentiments, if that is in fact the sentiments of Temora Shire. Other views or comments? Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd rather have a small surplus than go on funding an inefficient JO organisation that provides no economic benefit to the member councils, equivalent to the previous Rear Oxford, which clearly gave $45 million benefit over 20 years. And to replicate the administration of a second body, no economic gain is a waste of public money, and I'd rather not support that concept.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Yes, it is. That was my first initial reaction. I know you rang me to talk about that. My initial reaction is that we're not going to be blackmailed. We're not going to be treated in this manner. And as you said, Mr. Deputy Mayor, you just can't believe that they would do that to us. You just can't believe that they would do that to us, but they have. I did actually ring, because I had mayors ring me, and I spoke to the Minister for Local Government's Senior Advisor, Mr. Wilkie, at length, and spoke to him at length, and it was great. A good, open, frank discussion. He indicated to me that, well, they're having a review in the second half of this year, and I said, well, I think it's probably wise that you share that with the Riverina JO board members and their member councils, because we were not aware of that position. So I think you summed it up, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that we're just gutted, but also, Councillor McLaren, we're also in the hands. I understand the, and I know we're not dealing with that matter yet, but in relation to the letter that I've written to all councils, we've had Bland, Shire, Greater Hume and Lockhart. Shire, those three have written and they've adopted the recommendations in that later correspondence that we'll deal with, but also they've added with making their own personal representations to their member on behalf of their council, because that's important that they feel the heat. But I do know, after talking to some of them, or all of them, Councillor McLaren, that they're torn, just like we are, about saying what we'd like to say, that they could do with that money. To some are not even in the position financially that we're in as Temora Shire, and that's, I feel deeply for them. That's for sure. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor.
I think the other very significant point here too is the actual amount of money, the increase in it. What are we getting for $136,000 for a small house like this? Is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how they work that out. I just don't know. Why are we paying that much extra?
And ours is mild to an extent, Mr. General Manager or Madam Director, in relation to the increase. Talk to some of the other counties like Coolabah.
Well, some don't make sense. The list, it doesn't. Nothing adds up. Nothing. There's no commonality between any of the rates that how they set those increases.
Thank you. The General Manager.
Almost the sum total of the increase relates to the increased insurance for firefighters, the cancer issue. The government made a decision 2 years ago to fund any firefighter to do workers' compensation in the event that they had one of, I think, 13 different cancers, and then they said to us, you've got to pay for it. Basically, that's just...
Yes, deeply disappointing. But Councillor Slade?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll try to be coherent.
Yes.
It says it's not entirely clear on the evidence available, and the eligibility of funding is depending. But obviously, you're not the only person who's taking this to mean what you've taken it to mean. All the other people who have received these letters have done the same. So I think we can assume quite safely that this ridiculous proposal is, in fact, what the government is willing to impose on us. I'm sorry, but I think at this stage that it's time for hands off. The message has already been clearly given to the New South Wales government that the concept of JOs is not going down. We don't want it. We see no benefit for it. I don't know whose baby it is or it was, but I think we've made our voices fairly clear, not just from this JO, but from all the JOs across New South Wales. If they're not hearing it in what I imagine would have been the measured and polite tones with which the communication has been given to them so far, it seems to me that maybe we need to stop being quite as measured and quite as polite. This is, well, yeah, words elude me. I don't think I'd want to use the right word. But this is utter nonsense. And I think that we've got to say from government, we're not prepared to tolerate this utter nonsense. And to think that, they are saying that this is part of a stimulus package as a response to COVID-19. Wow. I just hope that nothing ever goes wrong. If they're going to give us this sort of encouragement when we're going through a crisis, what do they do if things really go wrong with us? Whatever motion is passed today, I think that we've got to make sure that we get the message across to the government. This is pure wrong.
Thank you, Councillor Slade. I think I divert back to the Deputy Mayor with his initial proposal in noting that report, and that we consider the implications, and then that gives us that scope, Council, and further that we make urgent and strong representations to our state member in relation to obviously how I'm feeling that this council, your position on this. Then at least that way, that'll give us the scope to consider the report from Ribjo and Rerock a bit later, and the recommendations there, because again, I think that there will be some further work done by both working parties of the JO and Rerock in light of this, and when we receive the feedback from our member councils, they will then go away, consider further recommendations going forward to come back to member councils to consider. So, Councillor Winky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Is there any time frame that this money is required to be paid?
The Director.
We get quarterly notices of payout. So this year will be 486, and we pay that over 4 instalments throughout the year. So we have to pay it, and then we get.
Have you paid anything already? Or have made any payments already?
No, that'll be within the next financial year.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I'll move that the recommendation, the conclusion that we make representation to the member.
Make urgent and strong representation.
Strong, yeah. Whatever channel.
Yeah, that's right. Well, certainly, I'll get a seconder for that, and then we'll discuss. Second, Councillor Winky, thank you. Moved and seconded. Just on that, we have had meetings with the LG/NSW President, Councillor Linda Scott. We also met earlier in the week with the New South Wales Opposition Leader and the Shadow Minister for Local Government as well, and they're certainly aware of the concerns, the deep, genuine concerns, and again that word the Deputy Mayor used earlier about, I think you said disgust, but extreme disappointment at the very least that they would do this. And yes, we've acknowledged that there's been some great things achieved by the state government, and we're grateful for that. We've acknowledged that. But also, when we're not genuinely happy, we have done the right thing. We have spoken to our state member initially, and then, of course, we had to wait to see what Council's position was. So now I'll put this motion to you, and then we can have those discussions if it passes in very, well, they've got to be frank and plain terms. It is gut-wrenching to think that they could do this to us when they know the JOs are not financially sustainable. So if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. No. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Oh, geez, page 292, 13.6, the quarterly budget review. The Director.
Thank you. So the budget review is presented. I haven't taken it.
Thank you, Madam Director. Any comments or questions, councillors, in terms of the quarterly budget review to 31st of March? If not, there is a recommendation the Director has for you to consider on page 292. Councillor Oliver, you'll move the recommendation. Councillor Reinhold, the second of the motion. Moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Anything of urgent, late nature from the Director? You're learning very quickly. That's good. Thank you very much. Well done. Now, councillors, let's now proceed to correspondence, of which you have late report and a very, very important report. Councillors, 14.1, the Ribjo Re-Rock Operations Report, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you can see, councillors, this is a report or a letter from the Chairman of Riverina JO and a copy of the questions and answers, and then a copy of the report from Morris and Lowe. There are two recommended actions to be taken, or two recommendations, which are contained on page 9 for Council's consideration.
Thank you, councillors. Just by way of explanation, I think we've tried to keep you all informed as we can on this journey, and I commend the Deputy Mayor who sits on the Riverina JO board and all those that have worked hard, general managers and mayors, to digest and genuinely look at a way forward with an open mind. And I'm proud that every single one has done that. Everyone that serves on those boards have indicated that they will do whatever is in the best interests of their councils and their communities in terms of a regional organisation structure. The councillors, the report that you have before you is very detailed, as it should be, but both boards, the Riverina JO board, 7 votes to 1, supported what is before you here in terms of a recommendation. So there were 7 that supported it, and the one that did not support that was Wagga Wagga City, and that certainly is their prerogative. The Re-Rock board, however, the 7 members, plus obviously the 2 non-voting members of county councils, they voted unanimously for what you see before you. So, and we also felt it was important to put the questions and answers for councillors and for senior staff as well. And we hope that has assisted in helping you come to the position that you want. In discussions with, I'd be grateful if the members of the press would put pens down, just having a spell during this particular time and moment. But in discussions with the Minister's senior advisor, Mr. Wilkie, he indicated to me that it was his view that it would be highly unusual if the Minister supported such a request about forming a company limited by guarantee. However, when I reminded him that there is precedent set for that in other places across the state, particularly in Metro Sydney, then he said, oh, well, that'll be a matter for the Minister. But I also suggested that, well, if our councils wanted to go back to Re-Rock Incorporated, what can be done about that? He said, well, there's obviously nothing that we could do. However, you need to get the Minister's permission to withdraw from a JO. And because they've had 3 JOs at this stage that had resolved to say effectively that they would get out of this by 30 June if there was no recurrent funding committed. They obviously got wind of that, and then we have what we have. And I put that to Mr. Wilkie, and I said, I think that's pretty ordinary, and he said, oh, well, he said, this is the way that the Minister feels that we need to stay the course, we're committed to JOs, and I said, but the language of the Minister, Troy, has even been uninspiring. And the General Manager, you were present when we met at Parliament House in March. The Minister said, well, we'll keep them going for as long as we can. Really inspiring stuff. And again, you've got in here 13 chairmen of JOs that indicated, even those, some of them now like Canberra JO, that are advocating that, oh yes, these are still the way forward. They still can't afford to keep them going. Anyway, I could go on and on, but I'm not going to. Councillors, the recommendation, just as the chairman, I strongly support. I know that your board member and the deputy mayor supported that position. The general manager supported that position. The only thing that I would like to see is further add, as 3 of our other fellow members have added, that we make urgent and strong representations to our state member. So, the council, just while you're thinking that if we did happen to pass this recommendation with an addition, if that's what you wanted, with the state member, that would, of course, General Manager would write back to us as a JO and Re-Rock, advise of that decision, as will others, collate those at the end of this month, and then we will convene another meeting of the working parties, tease out those responses, and again, the proposed way forward to again write back to our councils with what we're thinking. Sorry, Councillor McLaren.
Mr. Mayor, could you just clarify? Point 1 is to provide in-principle support to do the company by guarantee.
Yeah.
And proceed with that, or just in principle?
No, in principle. In principle. That's very, very important point, and I'm glad you raised it, because I want to emphasise that we are not committing council to anything if we went down that path. It is simply saying that at this point we adopt the principle of what the boards have recommended to us. That is that our preferred option going forward is a company limited by guarantee. And again, that a final decision, as it says on point 2, would be determined after this other was teased out. So therefore, if this was passed and all councils passed, as I expect that they will, except for our larger regional council, then again, those working parties will meet, consider some advice and recommendations further for our member councils to consider what way we go forward. But no, there is no way will that lock that in. And I will say that there is something that has been kicking around that maybe that that we keep both ticking along. But having said that, I'll talk more about that later. But it is, yes, again, it's not ideal to be talking about two organisations continuing, and that's something that all of us across the Riverina do not want. But when the government do what they've done to us, well, as far as I'm concerned, everything's on the table. So, Councillor Judd, surely you've got something. You've been on REROC board over the years.
First of all, just go back to the history of why GAOs were formed. You might remember that it was part of the Fit for the Future process, and for councils like Temora or any other small council especially, only way the government at the time decided we could survive was to become a member of the GAO, join an organisation. I know I went to meetings there and the concern was expressed a number of times that forming GAO would be virtually forming a fourth tier of government. And it's shown that probably for GAO to actually do anything, it probably has to be a fourth tier of government and be taking over jobs that our council's already doing, which we don't really want.
Be careful what we wish for.
Yes. So when it's not going to take over state government things, we don't want to take over ours, so what's left to do? Nothing, so, and yeah, so we were virtually, word blackmail was used before, well, we were blackmailed, didn't have to join the GAO in the first place. And it's unfortunately then they set down conditions of how GAO was going to be run with highly paid executive officers and all this sort of thing. If it was left to us, we'd probably run it on a shoestring, but not under their conditions. So, now, as I said, I've always been sceptical about it, what it could achieve, and I'm glad that Mayor and Deputy Mayor have sort of come to the same conclusion, and fully support your comments.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. The Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues is it's not probably, maybe not so much the cost, the governance around GAO, the amount of reporting and so forth. There's basically councils doubling up on what they're already doing. I think that's probably the big issue is that the actual funding of it. Under this company limited by guarantee, at least it reduces some of that governance. It is slightly cheaper, but not in a big way. So. But it's I think the biggest issue is it's just enforced on it. That's something that no council really wanted, but certainly no regional council anyway. Councils. But I think some of the city councils might be quite happy with it.
Even though, Mr. Deputy Mayor, the city council still have rocks. They're allowed to keep their rocks, and I do believe there's a genuine desire for the government to want to, enhance regional collaboration. Now, I remember being in a meeting room in Sydney with the Deputy Premier and the CEO of REROC saying, frankly, that, he apologised that we were caught up, that REROC was caught up in this GAO, but he did acknowledge that there were several others across the state that did not work cooperatively as REROC does. So he was very genuine in that. But I haven't forgotten that because he knew that REROC has been goals for over, nearly 30 years. Big goals. And as Councillor McLaren alluded to, $45 million. That was back, I think, when the report was done in 2015.
Yeah, the Achieving Strategic Capacity Through Regional Collaboration report.
Yeah, exactly. And even the minister, the former minister, if you remember, former Minister for Local Government, Ms. Upton, we even met with her and we knew she wasn't interested, and that's fine, but we still gave her this document. Even her senior bureaucrat, who we give that an advance copy of, even he just said this is one of the best that we've seen. So, gee whiz, if we weren't doing regional collaboration properly, then I could understand, right, make this work. Councillor Judd.
Yeah, when I do my university studies, when we studied on council cooperation, regional collaboration, there was textbooks put out, and the classic example for all of Australia was REROC all the time by the academics and everything. So that's how one of the best in Australia.
See, that is very, very important information. And Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm sure you've paid heed to that, as have I. And thank you, Councillor Judd, for sharing that. And I know, even in my short time as chairman, it is amazing the amount of bureaucrats in the state government and federal government that are ringing our CEO, wanting copies of REROC's reports for this, for that, or we've got some money here for this project. REROC, you get things done. Can you spend it? It just is unbelievable. I will say, councillors, I was remiss of me not to mention earlier, we need to place on record our warm thanks and praise for our state member, Ms. Cook, who, after all other mayors across the Riverina footprint got onto her, and Deputy Mayor, got onto her and indicated a genuine concern about this. To her credit, out of the three state members that cover our footprint, she took the lead and actually has completed a ministerial already on this issue. But again, with member councils considering all this and a response, this will add further weight, obviously, to what has already been done. But Ms. Cook deserves a big tick for taking the lead on this particular issue in its infancy. So I do have to give credit there, that's for sure. Anyway, councillors, there is a recommendation there from both boards, the Riverina JO and REROC, for you to consider. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move the recommendation and make strong representation to our local member.
Thank you. No, very important, thank you. Second for the motion. Councillor Judd, thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Further motion carried. Thank you very much, councillors, for your interest and support. And we'll keep you posted every step of the way on this one. Councillors, on page 69 of your late reports, there's 14.2 Wagga caravans in correspondence. The General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an unusual one, councillors. It's that a Wagga business wanting to set up in our street every second Saturday between 9 and 4 o'clock. Why it's a bit unusual is that there is no comparative business within the town, so it's probably providing a service for residents. If it was conflicted in any way with local businesses, it would need to be considered, but it's there for council's consideration.
Thank you. Councillors, the Deputy Mayor.
I thought a bit about this. Initially, I thought I'd ask about town business, but yeah, look, it could be actually providing a bit of a service to people like, there'll be a lot of, I think, once restrictions lift a bit more, people are going to get away for the holiday, and then hopefully that we're doing it by caravan or so forth, it's probably one of the safer ways of doing it, as far as staying away from other people. So, and that's maybe that's a bit behind what this business is doing. I don't think it's not going against any other business in the town. I don't have any problems with letting them set up here for whatever time they want.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
There's no indication of where they're going to set up, is there? Where
No.
are they going to set up? Main Street or Side Street or Showroom?
Thank you, Councillor McLaren, the General Manager.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be favouring setting up the Main Street. The indication that they give was that they'd look at somewhere like the Mud Van does around the corner, in Loftus Street, something like that. So,
thank you, Councillor McLaren.
Further, is this going to set a precedent for businesses who don't want to pay rent in shop fronts to have portable shop fronts caravanning around the district?
I think that's a fair point, Councillor McLaren. I have to say I'm not particularly keen on this for that reason. I think this is a commercial entity, and good luck to them. I think it's an innovative idea, but at the same time, I just think if we're going to allow, surely there's got to be a fee structure in place.
No rates, no contribution.
Nothing.
Just our money going out of that shop.
I take the Deputy Mayor's point mentioned earlier this afternoon that, some of the staff may spend money, down the street, but I don't know how significant that may or may not be. Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Winkie, and then I'll go to Councillor Smith. Councillor Winkie.
I'm just wondering about whether this is really the right climate to be sort of even entertain something like this with COVID-19 and people moving around and whatnot, and social distance in a caravan is going to be pretty difficult. And the other aspect I've got is that if people want a caravan, they're probably more likely to want to go to Wagga where they can see through the street rather than just the one that's coming around. So I'm a bit against it actually. It's not the wrong climate for a start. That's probably my biggest view.
Thank you, Councillor Winkie. Councillor Smith.
There is a commercial site, love rings. If they want somewhere to put a van, do a deal with whoever owns love rings and say, right, this is where it can be.
That's not a bad idea.
The ideal thing, if they want to come here and set up permanently, it's another business to the town. But like a lot of others, I think unless they're going to be here permanently or pay for a site, they're out.
I like your idea of for them obviously to talk to the relevant real estate agents about out here if that's something they want to do. Thank you. Other comments on the matter of Wagga caravans? No. If not, is someone prepared to move a motion in relation to how council will deal with it? Councillor Smith.
I'll move that we deny their request. And maybe offer them, indicate that they would be more than welcome to talk to the real estate about finding a premises.
Yeah, so to actually supply them with other possible options for them to consider. Yes, at least we're trying to be helpful. Yeah. Thank you. So it's been moved, Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor Oliver?
Yes, Mr.
Yes, seconded Councillor Oliver. You speak on the motion.
I think if they were to set up in the main or anywhere in town, would we be somehow accountable for any accidents or something like that? I don't know.
They have to have their public.
Yeah. Just not. I agree with Councillor Smith. It's better to keep it all above board, go and rent a little bit of space somewhere, and that stops the shopkeepers from.
And where there's a bit of car parking.
Yeah, exactly. That town too as well.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Smith.
If they were to set up in the main street somewhere, then we are setting a precedent, and you could have people come with shoes in vans or whatever.
Yeah, there would be a precedent set. I will note that there were well, the general manager advised me of this because he was obviously a patron of it. The ice creamery that was at the Shell and the other sideshow alley with Dagwood dogs, etc., was also at the Shell service station. So that's fine because that's on commercial premises and they have a mutually agreeable arrangement. I just think it would be, in my heart, it just wouldn't be right if we went and got involved in such a thing. But anyway, I'll support the motion.
Service station.
Pardon?
If they were to park on a service station, that's not our doing. It's their doing.
Yeah, that's two commercial entities coming to an arrangement. Yeah. I know. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, over on page 71, 14.3, OLG, the General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just for information, councillors, just to give some background information to the package and the frequently asked questions that come out of that package. No decision to be made.
Thank you. Someone prepared that we note the report. I will never forget this document, councillors, page 4, where it says that we must continue, council must continue to fund the JOs for a 2-year period if you wish to access the stimulus package. And I also understand, Madam Director, that last I heard there were 2 councils in the state that were only were the ones eligible to have access to the stimulus package, other than the ESL. Have you?
That's not, I haven't heard that.
Yeah. The Mayor of Griffith City told me that was a couple of weeks ago, so that may have changed. But again, a well-intentioned government, obviously, but yet whoever is crafting the detail, there's some issues there. Anyway, we won't go down that track again. Councillors, I've been pleased to receive a motion to make a report in relation to the OLG stimulus package. Councillor McLaren, the Deputy Mayor, moved and seconded. Further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Whether the motion carried. Thank you very much. No urgent late correspondence, Mr. General Manager?
No.
Thank you very much. Councillors, motion receiving the Councillors' information paper, please. Councillor Oliver, Councillor Winky, move. Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare that carried. Any items out of that report, please? No, Councillor Judd.
Just come over to 323, the meter release from Steph Cook. And I note there that during the past month I participated in a webinar with the Minister for Planning. And one of the points he made at the time was with this after COVID-19 and social distancing, councils may have to think about the width of footpaths and things like this in the future when we're doing a lot of our planning, our local planning. Instead of just making that point again in the press release, there's some things that in our present crisis may become regulations in the future. We should be aware of it. That's all.
Good, thanks, Councillor Judd. And I understand that our Economic Development Manager will be bringing back some proposals to Council in relation to this program in due course. So we'll be able to consider that, councillors, and it'll be very interesting. Any other items, councillors? You will note, councillors, that the Executive of the Sports Council, page 319, determined that we'll still award the scholarships because we had good nominations for those grants, but we are not having our Sports of the Year Award dinner obviously this year, but we will present those main auditors there at next year's dinner. So that's something that we will contend with. Nothing further, councillors? No, thank you. Let's now go to business without notice. Is there any councillor that has any business without notice, please? I'll go Councillor Reinhardt.
No, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you. Councillor Oliver. No, thank you. Councillor Winky.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Only this week I've been having quite a number of inquiries as to when the pool is going to be open again, mainly from people who have been using it for health reasons, and also the library and the Bundawarra Centre too.
Updates. So, good question, Councillor Winky, the General Manager.
Yeah, we'll give you an update. The library will open on the 1st of June. That's when we're able to open it again. The Bundawarra Centre will also likely open the 1st of June, mainly because whether the Bundawarra Centre itself will open, we're not altogether sure, but the Visitor Information Centre will, because at that stage intrastate travel will be permitted. In terms of the indoor pool, they're still banned at this stage. So it's really just a matter of, as they're allowing us to reopen it, we're reopening them. The only exception being skate parks and playgrounds where, Gloucester Park Playground is open at the moment, but it won't be because it'll be a construction zone soon. And Area Park Skate Park is also a construction zone, so that's not open at the moment either.
The outdoor pool is open to be open.
It is. I don't think you'll have many takers at this time of year, but it can open. But so it's just as things are happening, as we're getting the health orders, we're gradually reopening them. But at the moment, we still can't open the library, still can't open. Art galleries are able to be open, so we're not sure whether art galleries and museums will be considered the same. If they are, we'll open it at the same time.
It was talk that they were going to be open at the same time.
Yeah. The council office will open next Monday, so it'll open the. There will be the Pinnacle will open on Monday, and everything else is as we can, basically.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Winky?
No, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren, business without notice.
Just to say what a fantastic webinar it was on the 100% renewable last week. Congratulations to our interim manager for being all over this stuff. It's fantastic to have someone on our team who's so up to speed with all this, and I think that the idea of a revolving REF, what do they call it? A revolving energy, renewable energy fund for our council moving forward is a great thing to investigate, because I know there are other projects that we can adopt that will save us money in our operations, and I think the sooner we adopt those projects, the sooner we start saving money. So look forward to some more recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Anything further? Thank you. Thank you. We go to the Deputy Mayor.
Nothing else.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Nothing.
No deal. Councillor Judd, business without notice.
Just a number of drought projects been going on, but just mention one that's they started work in earnest on the dump point in Area Park today. Wet this afternoon, but working with the director of working out the planning, and I put the application into CMCA, the Caravan Motorhome Association. We were just planning money on trying to get the lid or the top for the dump point. And I had heard a conference that there might have been a small grant available, but in conversation with a young lady who was from CMCA, she said, "Oh, Nigel, how much is this project going to cost?" I said, "Oh, about 30,000, And she said, "Oh, would you like some more money?" So anyway, next thing you know,
you declined, obviously.
Next thing they sent an agreement, they've added a $10,000 grant to our, as well as doing our fittings and that. So that sort of helped with our finances a fair bit, so it's good when you get a bit of new good news like that one.
Exactly.
That's all, thanks.
Councillor Judd, I hear that there has never been so much high-vis gear seen at Area Park at any one time as what there is currently, which obviously is exciting.
It is exciting and it's good. Gives a lot of, I think, shows a lot of confidence in the village.
Exactly.
And, the frame started going up for the senior housing today, so it's all happening. So.
Well, again, I remember on our tour, excuse me, that the General Manager and I went with you and Councillor McLaren on that sort of northwestern part of the Shire, and I just remember one, Mr. Walker, Terry Walker, that indicated that he wanted, the Shire, the towns of, Temora and Area Park to be looking good, and I haven't forgotten that, and I think, again, all that activity I think would be good medicine, plus the rain that we've been blessed to receive thus far and more to come. So, thank you.
Just one last comment. We've been very blessed, even though everyone's probably stressed out with COVID-19, but counteract that, the rain and the prospects of a good season is really, really helping, If we just look back, we'd had a COVID-19 with the drought as well, it would have been a real calamity.
You are spot on. Spot on now. It gives us hope. Thank you. Councillor Slade, isn't it?
I couldn't top that report, so I'll pass.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Slade. Councillor, I just have a couple of things. One, I wanted to commend them. The General Manager and other directors have advised me of this, and I just wanted to get his name on the books. That I warmly commend our IT officer, Mr. Matthew Walker. Now, the General Manager has kept saying to me over a period of time, and no doubt the rest of you at different times, just how he really has stepped up. And I'm just impressed with, certainly with the assistance that he's given me, but I do place on record our thanks to Mr. Walker for his support of council, and he is doing his best. It hasn't been easy for him, but he has done his best, and I think still learning and keen to learn. I just wanted to mention that, councillors. And just the last one, but very, very important, I wanted to formally acknowledge on behalf of council every single volunteer in Temora Shire. Of course, this week being National Volunteer Week, a very, very important week, and normally there'd be a big shindig at Pinnacle House would host a special event for that, and we did something down there yesterday, just a film and what have you, but it is a time when we do stop and reflect. And I just remember talking to our Citizen of the Year. I asked him to come along, Mr. Graham Singh, and he's just saying, I only just work at the Salvation Army store. I only do this for the rugby league, which he misses. And it just made me think, well, hang on, it's not just only. You don't do this, things don't happen, events don't happen. And stores don't operate, certainly in that instance of Salvation Army Hall. And then another lady said, I only sell raffle tickets, once a month or whatever it was, under normal circumstances. And again, no, that's just as important as what all of us are doing in our own different voluntary capacities. So the point is, every single individual that has or gives from their hearts to serve others, to help others, just because they have it in their heart to do so, to me, they deserve our warm thanks and our warm praise, and we never ever take them for granted. And that goes for those that are still with us today and those that have served before us. They're very special indeed. Thank you. That's all the business without notice. There's nothing further. In accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act 1993, I advise that there are several matters that are deemed confidential, and accordingly I require a motion to have those matters considered. Thank you, Councillor Slade. The Deputy Mayor moved and seconded All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. We declare the motion. Thank you.